Hello, and welcome to today's Temkin Group webinar, Infusing Customer Experience with Positive Psychology. I'm Aimee Lucas, a CX Transformist and Vice President here at Temkin Group, and we're thrilled to have you join us today for our discussion on this topic. And maybe the question is why this topic and why Temkin Group? Why is Temkin Group covering it? And we believe positive psychology is a very important area of research that is emerging that will have a significant impact on customer experience and how organizations approach their work in customer experience. Today, we are going to share some background and define positive psychology for you and highlights from our time at the recent International Positive Psychology Association World Congress, and explore 3 positive psychology themes that emerged and the implications that we see on customer experience management. And joining me today, I'm really happy to welcome to the call Bruce Temkin.
Hi, Aimee, and thank you everyone for joining us. I'm excited to be discussing this topic because I think it's a interesting opportunity for us to enhance the work that we do, helping large organizations understand how to transform customer experience. And I think that you'll see in this webinar, especially when we start talking about the themes that Aimee mentioned, that positive psychology, at least sort of some of the core thinking about positive psychology, has actually been embedded in a lot of the work that we've done in driving culture and organizational change, although we had not explicitly called it positive psychology, nor had we tapped into the full capacity and capabilities of positive psychology. So when I think about positive psychology in our work, to me, we're sort of already using parts of it and have an enormous opportunity to really tap into a lot more of the research, a lot both academic and applied in other areas, and bring it into our work. So I kind of think of us sort of on the early part of a journey to really use positive psychology more explicitly within the research, consulting, and advisory things that we do for our clients. So I'm excited to join Aimee today.
Fantastic, and I echo that excitement about the topic and about beginning to share it with folks like you. For those of you who may not be familiar with Temkin Group, let me just take a moment to share a little bit about us. We are a leading customer experience research and consulting firm, as well as training with organizations, and our focus is really helping some of the world's largest brands transform themselves on that journey towards becoming more customer-centric and understanding how to build loyalty by engaging the hearts and the minds of their customers, their employees, and the partners that they work with. We were founded 5 years ago, just a little over 5 years ago, and based on 4 core beliefs. The first is that customer experience does drive loyalty. Our research shows that very strong relationship between positive customer experience, driving in customers those loyal behaviors that benefit the business, that they purchase more from the organization, that they're willing to try new products and services when they are introduced, that they are willing to recommend the organization to others, and they're willing to forgive the company when it makes a mistake. We also do believe that customer experience is a journey. It is not a project. It is a path to maturity, and organizations need to understand that commitment that they're making, that it is not enough to put a veneer over their current operations and check the box, but that improvement does require systemic change at times in their culture, change in their operating processes, because really the customer experience that a company delivers is a reflection of its culture and its operating processes. And we do believe that we help customer experience leaders make a difference by bringing our research, our expertise, and the experience that we gain and have gained in working with our clients to advance their own efforts. And you can learn more if you're interested about us at temkingroup.com. But let's dive into the topic at hand. and talk about and define first what is positive psychology. This definition comes from the Positive Psychology Center at the University of Pennsylvania, which is what I would say is one of the hubs of research in advancing this field. And they define it as the scientific study of the strengths that enable individuals and communities to thrive. The field is founded on the belief that people want to lead meaningful and fulfilling lives, to cultivate what is best within themselves, and to enhance their experiences of love, work, and play. Positive psychology, thinking on that, came together as a formal field in 1998 when a group of academic researchers really began to put some boundaries around a field of inquiry that focused on the study and the practice of positive emotions, strengths, and virtues that make individuals and institutions thrive. And since that time in 1998, there has been an incredible outpouring of work in this area, of research in this area, investment, the establishment of scientific journals, the development of master's and PhD programs, and an increasing spread of this topic, not just in the study of its impact on individuals, but also its study on its impact inside organizations. And we at Temkin Group, as Bruce said, have had threads of positive psychology without even necessarily labeling that in our research. If you follow some of our blogs and reports that we've done, you've seen research that we've done on the how happy employees are more engaged, the power of purpose in aligning employees towards the goals of the organization, the impact of gratitude practices on employee engagement. And in fact, one of our partners is also certified in positive psychology, which has helped to fuel our ongoing desire to learn more and begin to integrate it into our efforts. And that desire triggered our attendance at the International Positive Psychology Association's Fourth World Congress just a few weeks ago. And our attendance there really confirmed that positive psychology can be a powerful tool when we apply this work to the field of customer experience. This is a great list of some of the leading names in the field of positive psychology research right now. If this is a topic that you'd like to learn more on, these are some of the authors and the writers that you want to keep your eyes open for. And they were our keynote presenters at this World Congress. And so you can see here just the cross-section of topics. These are the titles of their keynote addresses that they shared over the course of those 4 days. And I just want to highlight a couple of them, and starting at the top with Dr. Martin Seligman. He is often considered the godfather or the grandfather of the positive psychology movement. He was one of the two authors who pulled the research together to craft and define this space. And his book, Flourish, which focuses on happiness and well-being, is one of those core reading tomes that people use as they begin to explore their study in this space. But then you can also see folks like Tal Ben-Shahar talking about making change last, David Cooperrider, who focuses on a practice called appreciative inquiry that you'll hear a little bit more about, and the power of how flourishing enterprises and positive institutions can really be agents of change to make the world better, and the importance of seeing humans not as a resource that gets used, but as a source that can intensify and increase in value and contributions. And we think of the importance of employees in our work as customer experience professionals, that recognition that they are a source for us is an important thing. Jonathan Haidt talks about capitalism and values, and again, how to increase the total tonnage of happiness in the world, we can use capitalism in those organizations to create the right kind of happiness in people. And then some of the themes from Barbara Fredrickson and her talk on positivity resonates about this upward spiral of lifestyle change, and her takeaway that you're more likely to stick with a wellness behavior over time if you enjoy it from the start. And that if we prioritize positivity, we can do this by getting proactive and arranging our days to incorporate activities that increase our individual positive emotions as we're going through the things that we need to accomplish. So you can probably tell by the tone of my voice that I'm very excited about this topic, and a lot of learning can come from some of the names that you see here on this screen. And what we were very excited about was the learning and themes that emerged from across what we heard from these individuals and the myriad of breakout sessions that we were able to attend. And Bruce is going to now talk about 3 of the many themes that we heard that we think are important for us to think in terms of customer experience today.
Great. So as Aimee discussed, we were, I would say we not only were informed, but were truly inspired by a lot of what we heard. I think that for those of you who are listening in on this webinar, watching this webinar, hopefully it's pretty clear that the themes that Aimee touched on from the keynoters are extremely important in the realm of customer experience when you think about customer experience the way we do, and that is that it's a reflection of your culture and operating processes. So we heard lots of things. We were at the event for several days, probably went to dozens of sessions, and so it really would be unfair to capture all that we learned in a handful of themes. And so we're not attempting to do that here, but we decided that it was worth at least picking, 3 key themes. So these we're not saying these are the only themes or these are the substantive themes of positive psychology, but these are 3 themes that stood out to us that were worth exploring in this type of dialogue in terms of the effect that these themes might have on customer experience. So the 3 themes that we identified were that positive emotions support sustained behavior change. And Aimee had alluded to that, which is that people are more likely to continue to do things if the things that they're doing provide positive feedback to them, if they make them feel good about it. So, for instance, if, just on not thinking about customer experience, but it's really hard to get someone to continue a diet if they don't like diets. We have to find something that gives them a positive emotion about that that's more likely to do it, because people just don't, over the long run, don't comply unless there is this positive emotion associated with it. The second one is that positive emotions increase human capacity. People are able to do more, work harder, smarter, and get more done if they are experiencing positive emotions. And then finally, that meaningful work amplifies positive emotions. So actually, people who have believe that they're part of something at work that is both meaningful for their organization, and their organization is providing something meaningful for customers in the world, that actually creates positive emotions. So we have this sort of nice loop of good, what we would consider good human behavior inside of an institution that happens with positive emotions and can be also reinforced with the type of work and the environment that we put people in. So those are the 3 things we want to explore, and we want to explore them in sort of this simple mathematical model, which is that if you take positive psychology and you add customer experience, that you can create a world of positive experiences. And when we look at this, it's sort of, as we were talking about before, that if we can take what we find out, because positive psychology, a lot of the positive psychology is about people and individuals within groups, right? There is a growing focus on institutions in positive psychology, but by and large, a lot of the early work on positive psychology has been about human beings because it's an offshoot of the psychology world where in the past a lot of the work has been on sort of negative psychology. What is negative psychology? It's sort of people have problems, we're going to fix their problems and make them, not have as many problems, as opposed to positive psychology, which, as Aimee talked about, is captured a lot in the notion of flourish, right, which Dr. Seligman created the book around to begin with, and how do we make people flourish. And if you think about flourishing, right, the positive psychology notion of flourishing, boy, that is an amazingly great combination with customer experience, because customer experience, although we don't generally use this word, is a lot about flourishing. How do we get customers to flourish, right? And our work on how you get customers to flourish has led us to focus a lot on how do you get employees to flourish. And so the combination of that, we believe, if we really take a lot of the learnings about positive psychology and add them to what we know about customer experience, that we can create an amazing world. And it's sort of like two great tastes that taste great together. Now, when it comes to focusing on customer experience, I want to introduce our model around customer experience, because I think if you haven't followed Temkin Group in the past, or you haven't spent a lot of time around customer experience, you might be thinking, well, okay, customer experience are these couple of interactions that companies have with customers. But as we mentioned earlier, our belief is that the customer experience that an organization delivers is actually a reflection of how it operates internally, a reflection of its culture and operating processes. And so one of the first pieces of research that Temkin Group did, and this was back in 2010, was to do a study of organizations that deliver great customer experience and compare them to other organizations that didn't. And what we ended up with is identifying these 4 areas of competencies that organizations have when they are actually customer experience leaders. So these are the things, these are the elements that companies master when they become customer-centric. And there are 4 of them. The first one is employee engagement. This is where we look at our employees fully committed to the goals of the organization, right? One of the sayings that we have is that unengaged employees can't create engaged customers, right? It's one of our fundamental laws of customer experience. So employee engagement, critical. The second is compelling brand values. Here's where we ask the question, are your brand attributes driving decisions about how you treat customers? This isn't looking at how you're marketing yourself or how you're putting out advertisements or anything like that. This is really looking at, do your brand values define who you are as an organization, and are people in your organization making decisions about the interaction with customers, the things that they do to live up to those brand attributes? We always say something that compelling brand values about making, embracing, and keeping your promises to customers. The third area is purposeful leadership. And here's where we look at the question, do your leaders operate consistently with a clear, well-articulated set of values? If you think about it, the ability of leaders to paint a picture of a future that employees and customers want to be a part of is an important part of driving organizations ahead. And then finally, the 4th competence area that we look at is customer connectedness. Here's where we ask, is customer feedback and insight integrated throughout your organization? What we're looking at here, this is the part of customer experience that I think that most people are most familiar with and jump to when they talk about customer experience. Are we making decisions knowing things about our customers, not just knowing things about segments of customers or randomness of random numbers about customers, but do we look at things like the customer's journey? Do we actually have behavioral understanding of customers? Do we create segmentation and personas so that we not only understand customers from a numeric 25% this, 33%, but that we have a visceral understanding of who our customers are, what their needs are, and use that to make decisions across the organization. So our work on customer experience has really been around helping organizations embed practices in these four areas: employee engagement, compelling brand values, purposeful leadership, and customer connectedness. So now what we want to do is just take each one of these areas and spend a little bit of time talking about how we see those three themes we talked about earlier playing a role in these competencies. And I think we'll get Aimee to kick it off with employee engagement.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Bruce. And it's probably very obvious why we start with employee engagement, because of that look at how this impacts individuals and individuals as members of groups. And a theme that we heard, not a theme, but a phrase that we heard very regularly at the Congress was that organizations are the soil in which employees grow. And when we create an environment where our employees can bring their best to their work, the organization benefits as well. And I think that's reflected in how we see our key themes play out when you think about how we look at raising employee engagement by infusing positive psychology into customer experience. And the first, when we talk about the idea that positive emotions support sustained behavior change, how can we make that real inside a company when we think about engaging employees? Well, it starts with rewarding and celebrating behaviors that are consistent with core values. As we want to align our employees with the goals of the organization, we need to be clear on the way they can demonstrate the core values and help us achieve our goals. And then by taking time to positively reinforce, to reward and celebrate the behaviors that are right in line with what we need our employees to do, raises positive emotions. That positive reinforcement raises positive emotions. The good feeling keeps our employees on the path of continuing to demonstrate those behaviors and encouraging others to do the same. And when we think about how positive emotions increase human capacity to be more thoughtful and creative and adaptive in their work, one thing that emerged that we can use is an approach called appreciative inquiry. Appreciative inquiry is one element within positive psychology created by David Cooperrider and fellow researchers of his. And very briefly, what appreciative inquiry is all about is looking and finding the positive in the individual, the positive in the organization by asking positive questions, by focusing the conversation on looking at what is working, on where employees feel they're doing their best in their job, at what work really they enjoy, at what's happening in their department that is supporting how we serve customers better. And as people become, what their research found is that as people become more aware of the positives that are happening around them, then they also start to see the possibilities and the potentials that are around them. And people become part of making change happen, either as an individual by recognizing the positive, they use that to raise their own game, or by recognizing the strengths that are already in place in the organization, they use those strengths to tackle the company challenges that it's facing. And I think that is so different in thinking than the traditional method of what's our crisis or what is our burning platform to use as the rallying cry to drive people to change. It freezes people up, and instead saying, what are the things we're strong at, and how can we use our strengths to move in the direction as an organization that we want to go. And then finally, meaningful work amplifying positive emotions and helping people find that meaning in their roles. One way to do that, sharing stories of employees doing the right things. Positive psychology is grounded in looking for examples of positive deviance, where performance excels above the norm, above the average. And so when organizationally we look around to find those stories, to capture those stories and share their stories, for the employee who becomes the hero of the story, that's a feel-good moment. And research also shows that people who are witnessing or hearing about good things get a burst in their own positive emotions and are actually more compelled to do positive behaviors themselves. So it's not just good for the employee who's the hero, but it's great to inspire the employees around them to do some of those same right things. And so at the heart again, how are we using these to create that fertile soil within which our employees can thrive and contribute to the work that we're doing? And part of the work that we have our employees doing when we think about customer experience is their role in helping us to keep, as Bruce mentioned, the brand promises they make. And so let's talk about the core competency of compelling brand values. Again, the true brand of an organization isn't the marketing slogan, but it's that fabric that is aligning employees and customers in pursuit of that common cause of excellence. And organizations that are successful in this make clear promises to their customers. They help their employees embrace those promises and then ultimately help employees, and it is the employees themselves who are keeping those promises. So how can positive psychology help us in this space? The first, and a theme, when we think about creating positive emotions to sustain behavior change, let's celebrate the successes of keeping brand promises. Suddenly this becomes a really happy role to play when we're looking for the things that are doing well and sharing those successes across the organization. When it comes to helping increase human capacity by tapping into positive emotions, we want to look for those opportunities that when employees are feeling good, we can ask them to step up a little bit more. The research has shown that when we focus on those positives, individuals' ability to collaborate with each other, to be more creative, to be more adaptive, and take on obstacles in front of them increases. And so we're freeing up that internal source of power in folks when we're raising their positive emotions on the job. And then finally, when it comes to helping employees find meaning and helping them thrive in their work, it's painting a very clear picture for them about how important their role is in delivering brand promises. One way to think about doing that is how do we connect our employees to customer stories or let them be a customer themselves, which is something that Four Seasons Hotels does. It lets their employees have the opportunity to be a guest so that they can see exactly how it all comes together in their own customers' eyes. And so when we bring these three pieces together, celebrating when we're keeping those brand promises the right way, when tapping into that positive emotion to pull more from our employees in pursuit of those right behaviors and those successes, and making sure everyone understands that their role has a key part in delivering those brand promises and living up to the brand values of the organization.
So now it's my turn.
It is now your turn.
Purposeful leadership. It's interesting. A lot of our work around customer experience, and actually any work around looking at organization, has to have some model of expectations around its leaders. And hopefully, from all the things that you've heard us talk about so far around positive psychology, it seems to me clear, or at least hopefully it's clear to you, that there's a lot of stuff that should show up in the model of leadership. And our model about purposeful leadership is, as I mentioned before, that not just that leaders are ad hoc, but that the people in an organization understand what's important to the leader, and therefore they can figure out how to line up around that and get on board. So the purpose of a leader in our model, where we look at organizations that thrive, it's not someone who's handing out tasks, but putting in place a mindset around the employees that they can live up to. And so when we look at how it plays out in those themes, it should be pretty straightforward, right? Positive emotions, the way they support sustained behavior, is the notion, one of the ways that people can have positive emotions about what they're doing is to really understand why they're doing something. This is work that we do a lot of stuff with leaders around communication patterns and the notion about making a compelling case for why change is good for employees, right? Lots of times, leaders might go in and say, well, we have to change, the business has to change. But it's important for a leader to spend the time to really make and articulate the case for why the things they're trying to do is good for the individual employees. And I think oftentimes leaders might take this for granted, right? If we do this, then it's good for the company, and therefore it has to be good for employees. Well, that's not necessarily the case. It's important for a leader to really be able to articulate to each employee, or at least to each employee group, why change is good for them. Because once they understand why it's good for them, then doing something along that line will provide them positive emotions. Now, the second one, the positive emotions increase human capacity. We talked about appreciative inquiry. There's, if anyone should be using appreciative inquiry, it should be our leaders, not just because of the value that appreciative inquiry will have to the people that they are talking to. Aimee discussed that, right? The ability to ask questions that elicit the understanding about what's working, right? The questions we use are oftentimes a large portion of the environment we create. And so getting leaders not only using appreciative inquiry for the value that it does in terms of their actions, but it models the behavior that they want to see and that we expect from leaders and from people across the organization, right? Well, one of the things we always talk about for leaders is that what they do actually demonstrates very symbolically what is expected as good behavior across the organization. So the use of appreciative inquiry by leaders is an important component of blending, I think, customer experience and positive psychology. And then finally, meaningful work amplifies positive emotions, thanking employees for the specific things they do to fulfill the mission. Now, this is really specific. This isn't just about thanking employees, right? We really want our leaders to be mindful of both the needs of the organization they're in, the people and the groups and those things, but also recognize that they have to achieve their mission, right? It's not just about having employees be happy. It's about having employees be engaged and positively motivated to support the mission. So finding ways to be really thankful employees for things that they did, even little things, and making sure that thank you note ties to how it helped deliver on the mission of the organization. And we recommend that leaders spend time and even their busy schedules, right? Block out time on your calendar to go out and find and identify people who deserve thanks, and give them thanks, and find ways to give them thanks in meaningful ways, maybe handwritten notes, right? Maybe a call, not just an email. So I think it's important that leaders, purposeful leaders, thank employees in these ways. So the last competence of our four that we're going to talk about is customer connectedness. And customer connectedness is, once again, making sure that we have a deep, rich understanding of our customers. And that is actually not just in isolated areas, but across the organization. So when it comes to positive emotions support sustained behavior change, we want to understand and replicate what a company does to generate positive emotions in customers. Because if we think about positive emotions, we've been talking a lot about sort of our employees, but if we want our customers to be loyal to us, then we ought to find out what are the things that we're doing for them that are creating a positive emotional response and replicate more of that. It turns out our research has shown, and we look at sort of the linkage between customer experience and loyalty. And when we do that, we look at three areas of experience: success, effort, and emotion. Success is the ability of customers to do what they want to do. Effort is how easy or hard it is for them to do what they want to do. And emotion is how do they feel about the interaction with the company. And it turns out that their emotion, how they feel about their interactions, has the most influence on their loyal behavior. So we ought to seek out places where we're having a really positive emotional response and replicate them. We ought to help customers have better lives by enhancing positive emotions during interaction. So not just should we think about our customers in terms of that loyalty, but if we try and if we focus our employees and our organization on enhancing the lives of our customers, that actually creates a positive emotions both in our customers and in our employees, and has a really nice sort of multiplicative effect in terms of raising customer experience, because as our customers have better emotions and we find ways to enhance it and our employees see that and feel it and they're a part of it, we have a nice virtuous cycle building. And then finally, the last item, making meaningful work amplifying positive emotions. We want to make customers feel good about interactions by sharing strong and honest set of company values, right? If, the meaningfulness of interactions is not just from employees at work, but we want our customers to feel like their interactions with us are meaningful. If we are clear about having a strong, honest set of values, this is how we operate, then customers, if they understand that and interact with us and feel like they're a part of that ecosystem where we are delivering on these values and they are experiencing those values, then they feel like there's more meaning in interacting with us. So this is just a start of what we're looking at in terms of the 4 competencies. And hopefully you got a sense, and once again, I want to reiterate that we're just at sort of the beginning of explicitly infusing the thinking around positive psychology into our 4 competencies: purposeful leadership, compelling brand values, employee engagement, and customer connectedness. And our hope and our belief is that as we study more of the positive psychology research, as we do more research on positive psychology ourselves, so one of the things that we do a lot of, we do an enormous amount of consumer research relative to customer experience. My guess is we might even do the most consumer research relative to customer experience that goes on, that we're adding some positive psychology elements into it. We're going to extend our research that really didn't have a positive psychology label to it before, but clearly is in that realm. We've been publishing for a few years the Temkin Wellbeing Index, and it looks at things. We looked at consumers' belief that they are financially secure, that they're healthy, and that they're typically happy. So happy, healthy, and financially secure have been the foundations for our Temkin Wellbeing Index, and we have a lot of other attitudes. One of the attitudes that we're going to start tracking is whether consumers feel loved and appreciated. So you'll see not only us infusing the positive psychology research and understanding into our customer experience, but we actually hope to be able to add to the discussion and the research going around how positive psychology affects the relationship between companies and employees and their customers. And so, as we said at the beginning, I think this is a really wonderful combination that will help to propel our research and more broadly the state of customer experience into the future.
Well, fantastic, Bruce, and I'm excited to be on that journey of bringing positive psychology into our work as well, and hopefully this has given our attendees today a flavor of where some of that is headed. Just a quick reminder for everyone on the webinar, if you do have any follow-up questions, you can use the chat functionality there on the left-hand side of your screen to submit a question to Bruce and I, and we'll be happy to field those in the few minutes we have remaining. And while we're giving you a chance to submit questions, just a couple of reminders of two more things coming up from Temkin Group. We have a webinar on some research that will be published shortly, the Behavioral Guide to Experience Design, which is another very interesting topic that brings in some of the assorted theories on biases and on other things to how that affects how companies need to think about the design of the experiences for their customers. That'll be on August 5th at 1 in the afternoon Eastern Time, and you can register at tinyurl.com/TGAugust5. And then our next workshop coming up in October is Driving Customer Experience Transformation. This is a great opportunity for customer experience leaders as well as members of customer experience teams to come and really dive into some of the core pieces that help drive customer experience and that journey in an organization. You can learn more and register at tinyurl.com/TG workshops. And again, information on all of what we do you can find on temkingroup.com. And Bruce, a couple of questions have come in, and I like this first one. It's short and sweet and to the point, and certainly I can see this being a typical question leaders might ask of CX leaders who bring forth the idea of positive psychology in their own work. And so the question is this just about making employees happy? What do you think about that topic? I'll give you a shot and then I'll chime in.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think that's, so the quick answer is no, right? Because I think that we always have to balance the operation of an organization and the goals of the organization with the needs of the people, right? And pure happiness is not ultimately going to make an organization better, right? We can, if we just focus on giving people pizza and have parties in the halls all the time, maybe it'll make them happy. It's not going to make our organization thrive. So I think we always have to find how do we bring meaning to our employees' life? How do we bring well-being that intersects with the advancement of the organization's goals and objectives? And I think a lot of the things that we talked about in terms of the 4 competencies showed some of that, right? We want to make people feel good and happy about participating in the success of the organization, not just make people feel happy in isolation on their own going to a party or eating pizza. So having said that, clearly a happier workforce is a more productive workforce. So it's probably not a good idea to do things that will just explicitly make your employees unhappy, but really the real win in an organization is when using the flourish word, it's when employees flourish by supporting the positive direction of the organization. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely not happiness for happiness' sake, or the trappings, or what you think happiness is about on the surface, as you mentioned, the parties or the pizza or the what have you. I think it really gets to the heart of what are we doing that helps our employees flourish rather than flounder, so that they can bring their best and have some of their best moments while they're with us and with their coworkers in the workplace. And so tapping into some of the things that we mentioned in terms of, one, making sure they understand what we're looking for from them and reinforcing and celebrating the successes that they have in doing that. Tapping into some of the intrinsic motivations of our employees and helping them find meaning and feel as if they're making progress and growing and learning themselves and see the contribution that they're making. I think that really is at the heart of positive psychology and making a person have a higher level of well-being, of which happiness is a part of. So yeah, it's not the trappings of it. It really is getting into the what we can do, infusing our own actions as leaders to bring out the best of our employees from our employees while they're with us in the workplace. All right. This is sort of a related question. There's a lot mentioned about rewarding and celebrating employee behavior. Any advice on spreading that across an organization where that doesn't really happen naturally today? And I'll take a shot at that, as I've covered reward and recognition programs in a number of pieces of my research. And I think in that sort of environment where it's not necessarily happening naturally today, or maybe it only happens in the those annual moments of performance reviews and bonus announcements, I think step one is keep it simple. Look for simple ways to catch people doing the right things, and not just keep it simple, but spread the ability to many to catch people doing the right things. Don't just make recognition, giving pats on the back, the responsibility of leaders and managers. Many organizations have great success in introducing peer-to-peer recognition programs, where through simple things like posting shout-outs or congratulation notes on the company's intranet site on a dedicated feed, or making it easy to hand off a certificate or award points peer-to-peer. So when you catch your coworker doing things that are supporting the goals of the company, where they're living the company values, that really seems to build momentum in organizations where maybe this wasn't happening regularly on a day-to-day basis. It shifts the burden. And the other positive is not only are then coworkers recognizing each other, so we're multiplying the gratitude and the thanks and the reinforcement that's going around, but it forces people to understand, what are the good behaviors that I'm looking for? What does it mean to live our values? Because they're trying to spot it with each other. So I guess in short, my advice would be keep it simple and look for a way to spread the activity with something like peer-to-peer recognition, as opposed to simply a top-down oriented program. I don't know, Bruce, if you've got anything to add to that.
Oh, I think you did a great job.
Excellent. And it looks like we've got one final one. We'll wrap up with this. And it ties to customer connectedness, Bruce. Our Voice of the Customer program doesn't really focus on understanding customers' emotions, just if they were satisfied or not and other things. What are ways companies can start to understand customer emotions related to our company?
So that's a great question, and that is that's actually a flaw in lots of organizations, right? Because if we, I think I mentioned a little bit that the components of any experience are success, effort, and emotion, right? A customer comes in, success, can they do what they want to do? Effort, how easy is it to do what they want to do? And emotion, how they feel. We have, as organizations, as entities, overly focused on success, right? We have things like functional requirements that define what a product and service need to do, but we don't have anything that defines what our expectations around how easy it should do. And Lord knows in organizations we don't even talk about emotions, right? It's almost a taboo to talk about emotions, never mind to be explicit about what emotions we want to elicit, what are we getting, what are expectations. So I think that we have to do a couple things. One is clearly move away from just the function success piece, and even moving into the effort, how easy or hard it is a good step in the right direction, even if we don't go all the way to emotion. But to go to all the way to emotion, and which is where I think companies do need to go, is we have to do more than just have survey questions, right? I think the use of more qualitative research, right? Asking customers, doing, whether they're focus groups or doing doing more ethnographic research, but really understanding what drives customers and ultimately what drives how they feel about us and the emotions they have when they interact with us are all critical components. And if we do that work, then we can spot places in our relationship with our customers that have either strong positive or strong negative emotional responses or the opportunities for those, and really start to look at being explicit in designing the experiences around either attenuating the positive or minimizing the negative emotions. And sometimes those come down to just the design of little things. One of the things we talk about in our research is the design of little things, right? It might be the way that you end a conversation, right? And we'll be talking about this in the Behavioral Guide to Customer Experience, to Experience Design, which Aimee mentioned is an upcoming webinar. There's also going to be a report that we're going to publish. But understanding what drives people to think and believe the way they do and have emotional responses to things is an important input to us being able to develop experiences that's going to make them feel good and happy and make them want to come back.
Awesome. Great. And our question queue is clear. So I'll bring us to a close. Again, thank you, everyone, for joining us. Obviously, you can keep track of us through these means of communication online and via Twitter. And we will be making a recorded version of this webinar available once it's complete. And we thank you all for joining us today. And on that note, we will wrap it up. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.